experience. You're a mother from the time that they're born until the time that you close your eyes or your child leaves. You're a mother. So you never step out of that job requirement. You never step out of it. So sometimes it's a hurt being a mother, and it's a struggle getting to motherhood and walking in the true calling of motherhood. It's a challenge sometimes getting there. And I was just thinking on this week as I was preparing this message, I thought about Ruth and how she attached herself to Naomi. Ruth was married for a number of years to Naomi's son, but they had no children. Why they had no children, I don't know. Because we know eventually she did have a child. But she was left widowed. She was left widowed at a young age. Also reminded of the infertility of Rachel and how Rachel had gone through it and she had no children until the very end. She had Joseph and then she had Benjamin and she died at the childbirth of Benjamin. She gave her life so that he could live. Then I think about Hannah and how Hannah was ridiculed and provoked by Peninnah all of those years while they went up to Shiloh to give worship and Elkanah and his wife Peninnah and their children went up and it was only Hannah. But Elkanah said to Hannah that I love you more than any son. I love you. But there was an emptiness on the inside of her. She wanted to be a mother. So what did she do? She prayed to God. She prayed to God and asked God to give her a child. And God, if you give me a child, I'm going to give that child back to you. And then God blessed her. And she gave birth to Samuel. Samuel was a great prophet. She gave Samuel back to the prophet Eli. And he lived there with Eli. And he grew up and he became a great man of God. And then after she had fulfilled her promise back to God, God opened up her womb. And she had other sons and other daughters. God is a good God. I'm thinking about Sarah this morning and all of the years that Sarah went barren and she had no child. She desired to be a mother, but that was not in her cards. And they went through all of these other steps. They went through all of these things, trying to become parents without fulfilling it the way that God had promised that it was going to be done. 25 years went by. 25 long years went by before they received the promised child. But along the way, they had made some mistakes. Along the way, they had done some things on their own. We talk about leading to our own understanding, and that's what they did. They made a deal amongst each other. She had a handmaiden, and she gave her handmaiden to Abraham, and he had a child by this woman. But this child brought in some confusion that we still deal with today. We still deal with that today. The choices that we make are so important. The choices that we make are sometimes lifelong. The choices that we make, we really have to think about what we're doing, the choices that we're making every day. That's why it's so important for us to consult the Lord. It's so important for us to seek God's advice and seek His wisdom before we do anything. Acknowledge the Lord in all of our ways. Not just some things, but in everything we acknowledge the Lord. But I think about these women and how they went through to get to the place that God wanted them to be. Then I'm reminded of Eve, and I'm reminded of Mary, the mother of Jesus. And I think about the terrible circumstances that they had to deal with. Eve dealing with the death of one of her sons by the hand of another son of hers. Cain killing Abel, and we see the sacrifice that Jesus made for us. How Jesus gave his life, how he surrendered his life and went to the cross. And I can only imagine the hurt and the pain and the agony of that mother as she sat at the foot of the cross, looking up at her son bleeding and dying for the sins of this world. I can only imagine And you mothers out there, you know, you can probably just feel the pain that Mary felt then. But this gives us the insight to see that being a mother and being a wife is a joy sometimes, and it also can come with painful situations and circumstances. The story that we are going to look at this morning from the scriptures that we read, most times when we look at this story, we think about the emphasis that's put on the wisdom of King Solomon. And we know that Solomon was a very wise man. Of course, this is appropriate as the inclusion of this pericope is clearly intended to demonstrate the wisdom of the king. This is abundantly evident as we read the concluding statement of the chapter, the last verse there, the 28th verse in that 16th chapter. And all Israel heard of the judgment that King Solomon had rendered, and they stood in awe of the king, because they perceived that the king, his wisdom that he received from God was in him, and it was in him to do justly. However, a secondary theme throughout the account is a powerful evidence of the mother's love. Oh, we see two mothers that are battling for the live child that still existed, and we know that one mother's love is going to overshadow the other. And I believe that if ever there was a time that we needed godly mothers, it's right now. We need mothers that can stand up and lead their families, because so many households are single households. They're single parent households where either the father has deceased, or the father has left the family, or the father is incarcerated. But there's a time when you need your mama. You need your mama. You need your mama to stand up, to be mama and dad. You know, it's unfortunate that that's the case, but there are so many times when we need our mothers to fill that gap, for mothers to stand and do the role of mother and father. But we need mothers today. We need godly mothers to make the right decision, to lead their children. We have so many things that are going on in the world, and mothers need to make an impact. Mothers need to make an impact. That's why it's so important to bring your children to church. It's so important to raise your children up in the fear and the admonition of the Lord, so it's not all on you. If you bring them to the church, then I believe that there are some men in the church that can be spiritual fathers to your sons. They can be spiritual fathers, hallelujah, to your daughters. They can be that example. They can stand the gap and fill in where the biological father has left off. But Christians today seem to have forgotten. They've forgotten this necessary lesson from the Word of God that Apostle Paul taught us in the book of Titus. And in the book of Titus, he talks about instructions of how that it was a necessity for the older women to teach what is good. Teach the training to the young women to love their husband and to love their children, to be self-controlled and to be pure. We need godly women to serve as mentors for younger women if we will reverse the trend that we see going on today. I'm telling you, the devil is busy, and the devil wants our children. He's after our children from birth. He's after them. We all know that are familiar with the Bible, that we are born into sin and we're shapen into iniquity, that we know that we have a work that we have to do. And I'm talking to the mothers today because this is Mother's Day. But I want you to know that Father's Day is coming. So this message today is primarily for the mothers. Hallelujah. I want you to know also there are some things that are going on in this world that we need to be aware of. The Bible tells us in 2 Timothy, the 3rd chapter, know this, that also in the last days, perilous times are going to come. Men shall become lovers of their own selves. They will be covetous and boisterous and proud, blasphemers and disobedient to parents, unthankful and unholy, without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent peers, despisers of those that are good, traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasure more than lovers of God, having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof. And I want you women to know that you have to be careful of these men that you're selected that have a form of godliness. That's why my message to men and women alike here in Courageous Faith is to have a discerning spirit, that you be able to discern a thing, that you be able to see behind the glint and the glamour, that you're able to see beyond the facade that people try to portray before you, that you can see who people really are, that God will open up and give you a revelation knowledge of who people really are, because it's a sad thing when you prematurely get into a relationship, when you prematurely do something that you regret for the rest of your life. Now you're stuck for the rest of your life with this situation, this circumstance that you didn't have to be in. That's why we seek God. That's why we come to God. That's why we surrender to God. That's why we call on God. And God can help us. The story that is related in this text is touching. Oh, it's so realistic that any true child of God is compelled to identify with it. We're talking about two prostitutes. If you didn't get it, two harlots is what it's called in the King James Version. Two prostitutes that lived together. Each had become pregnant as a result of plying their trade. Each had a son, and apparently within a short period of time of each other, they had two sons. And this morning I want to speak to you on 3 points for the next 25 minutes. I want to speak to you about the situation, the solution, and the sacrifice. The situation, the solution, and the sacrifice. First, the situation. One night when there were no clients being in the household of these two women, they had already had their children and they were both asleep. One woman laid on top of her child and smothered her child. Didn't say whether or not she did this accidentally or this was something that just happened. We know that sometimes when people are exhausted, they don't really realize what they're doing. But she had this child so close to her that she laid on the child and she smothered the child. And over in the middle of the night, she realized that there was no life left in her child. And so what she decided to do, over in the middle of the night, she saw that the other lady was asleep with her child. She was asleep. So she got up and she took the baby that she had laid on and that was now dead, and she took it over and she exchanged her child with somebody else's child. And she came back to her bed and she laid there, and then when the morning arose, the mother of the living child, she looked down and she noticed that her child was not moving. She was about to feed her baby, but the baby had no life in it. But then after closer examination, and I believe that every mother knows her child's cry. Every mother is able to distinguish her child's cry, her child's call from any other child, whether they're in a group or not. Just like a good shepherd is able to distinguish his sheep's call, and the sheep are able to distinguish the call of their shepherd. This lady had exchanged babies, so when the mother of the living baby realized that this dead baby that was laying beside her was not her child, this is not her child, she tried to reason with this mother. She tried to let her know that I know that this is your child, and you have my child. But the lady refused. She refused. She refused to acknowledge that the dead baby was hers. So there was no other recourse that they had. So what they were going to do, they were going to take the matter before the king. They were going to take the matter before the king. So the solution is my second point. So my first point was the situation. My second point is the solution. So there was nowhere else for them to go. There are two prostitutes. There are two harlots. Nobody really recognizes them based on their trade. Solomon had just been enthroned as the king, so they went before the king. It doesn't give us the same requirements that Esther had, and I'm sure this was the same requirements, but they just broke protocol because this mother says, I have a desperate situation. So she was not worried about the situation that Esther was faced with when she went before the king to plead her case, that you had to be acknowledged by the king. You had to be summoned by the king. You had to be called by the king. You didn't just walk up into the king's office and say, hey, I want to talk to you. No, it was not like that. But this lady was desperate. This mother, I'm talking about a mother's love today. I'm talking about a mother's love, not concerned about herself, not concerned about her predicament. She was concerned about her child. So she said, whatever it takes, whatever is required by any means necessary, I'm going to make sure that my child is brought back to me. I'm going to make sure that my child is taken care of. I don't care what damage it faces, it comes to me. I'm going to press in and I'm going to make my way to the king. Hallelujah. I believe that the songwriter said, take me to the king. I'm going to see the king. I'm going to plead my case. I'm going to make my case known before the king. You're going to hear me out. I know that this is my child. Hallelujah. And I know that in the end, good is going to come from this. I know that in the end, God's going to work it out on my behalf. I know that in the end, God's going to turn it around. It looks bad right now. It looks desperate right now. But God sees you, mother. I want you to know that God sees what you're going through. God sees your dilemma. God sees your problem. And I know that God, He is a problem solver. God, He is a deliverer. God is a way maker today. Hallelujah. 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 I want you to give God some praise. Glory, glory, glory. Thank you, Jesus. It's easy for us after the fact to look at this story and to look at the call that Solomon made. But I tell you, in the heat of the moment, sometimes we have to make a decision. Sometimes we have to make a judgment call. We don't have time to go and consult with one another. We don't have time to ask anybody else. We only can talk to God. And all we have to do is have a little talk with Jesus, tell him all about our trouble, and he can work it out. He can answer. He can answer. I believe that if you call on Jesus, that he can still, he can answer prayer. He is a prayer answering God. He's still a miracle working God. There's nothing, no thing is too hard for God. Hallelujah. Solomon says, somebody bring me a sword. I've heard both of these ladies talking. This one says that it's her baby. The other one says it's her baby. I know how we can resolve this issue. I know how we can solve this. Somebody bring me a sword. And I believe that he asked for a sword, but I don't believe that Solomon was going to do it himself. But I believe he called for somebody to come in and he said, this is my judgment. This is what I'm going to do to resolve this issue. I've heard from both of you. And I tell you, there's one way that both of you can be satisfied. I will take this sword and I will cut this baby down the middle and I'll give you half and I'll give you the other half. Yeah. Solomon didn't propose this to the women. Instead he acted with boldness. He said, hallelujah, God dropped this into my spirit, if you will. God gave me this. God knows how to do things. And God, he spoke to Solomon and he told him, hallelujah, this is one way that I know that the true mother will stand up. I believe that there used to be a show that said to tell the truth. Hallelujah, to tell the truth. And I believe that the way that the truth of this matter was going to come out is that he was going to have to cut this child in half. And there's no way in the world that a real mother is going to stand there knowing that this is my child and let this child be cut in half. Talking about a mother's love, Now, while the real mother had no issues, she had no issues with the child being the real mother. The real mother said, "I tell you what." No, the false mother said, "I don't care what you do. Go ahead, cut the child in half." But the real mother says, "King, this is what I want you to do. I want you to give that mother the baby. Instead of you cutting the baby in half and splitting the baby up between the two of us, taking that baby's life, I would rather my child live if she has to live with someone else. I would rather my child live." Kind of reminds me of the story of Moses and how Moses was sent up the stream, how Moses was put into the water. Hallelujah. That real mother said that the children were being killed during that time, but she said, "I'm going to put my baby in a basket and I'm going to send my baby up the stream, and maybe, hallelujah, Pharaoh's daughter will get my baby and give succor to one of the Hebrew women." And just like God, hallelujah, the baby was drawn out of the water. The baby was pulled out, and she said, "Go and fetch me a Hebrew woman to nurse this baby." And Moses' mother, hallelujah, Moses' mother, she nursed her own baby. Hallelujah. God has a way of doing things. God has a way of doing things. Glory to God. So the real mother said, "Don't do it. Don't do it." Solomon knew then. He knew then who the real mother was. What happens next is nothing short of a sacrifice. And I'll tell you, it's a sacrifice that mothers sometimes make daily. They make these sacrifices daily. Sometimes they make these sacrifices over a lifetime of the child. And if I could just take a quick diversion, I want to talk about one mother. One mother I want to talk about just briefly that's outside of this story. And I know you women are not sometimes encapsulated by sports, basketball, football, and none of those things, but I was watching once an MVP speech by a basketball player, played for the Oklahoma Thunder at the time, Kevin Durant. And his mother was a single mother. So while he's up giving this speech, he was giving this speech and he was talking about basketball. He was talking about how they grew up poor, how they grew up lacking, no father in their life, and how his mother had the first son at 18, and how she had him, Kevin Durant, had him at 21 years old. So at 21, she had 2 children, and she worked and she did all that she could for the children, but you know, it was not the greatest life that she was able to provide for them. But he was so thankful. So he talked about how they moved from apartment to apartment. And he talked about how she had pushed him when he was growing up and made him do push-ups and made him run up the hill and took him to basketball practice and gave him the inspiration to love the game the way that he did. And really, God was watching over him. God was blessing him. But I'll tell you, it was most touching when he talked about them moving to one final apartment and they had no furniture, but they were just so happy because they had each other. They were just so happy because they had each other. So as he began to give accolades to his mother, and he talked about the sacrifices that she had made for them, to buy them clothes and to push them, and to miss meals, know that there was not enough money, not enough food, and how she would sacrifice eating herself so that her children could eat. I'm talking about a mother's love. So he was there standing, making the speech about becoming the most valuable player in basketball for that particular year. But what he told his mother is, "You're the real MVP. You're the most valuable player. You're the one that made me who I am. If it wasn't for you, and yes, I have great teammates. Yes, I've had some great coaches. Yes, I've been pushed by some great people, great agents, but you are the MVP." So they went from having nothing. Can you just imagine this, mothers? Can you go from having nothing, being poor, dirt poor, just barely getting by, to now all of a sudden, anything that you want, anything that you need. I'm telling you, it pays to be faithful. It pays to sacrifice for your children. It pays to pour out into your children because you don't know what your children are going to become. But I tell you, with God, there's anything possible. With God, they can become whatever it is that God pushes them to be. But we have to make sure we don't talk to our children and tell them that they're not going to be anything. We don't talk to our children and tell them that they're not going to ever amount to anything. We tell our children that God is with you, and with God all things are possible. I want you to know that you're smart. I want you to know that you have talent. I want you to know that God is with you, and I want you to know that with God, and you keep God on your side, that you can do anything. So Kevin Durant is a wealthy young man now. He's a multi-millionaire, and I'm sure that his mother lives in a fine home, drives a nice car, and she doesn't have to even work anymore should she decide not to. I'm sure he's taking care of his mom. By him giving that speech the way that he did, I know that he loves his mother. And if you train your children up in the way that they should go, if you raise them the way that they should be raised, in the fear and the admonition of the Lord, then there's nothing that your children won't do for you. And you're going to see it on this Mother's Day. You'll see it. But it's not just Mother's Day. It's not just this one day out of the year. You know that your children love you every day of the year by the things that they do, by the sacrifices that they make, how they're living, how they're serving, how they're following in your footsteps. You know that what you have done has paid off. Hallelujah. The songwriter said that serving the Lord was going to pay off after a while. But I want you to know that raising your children is going to pay off not only after a while, but right now. Right now. The third point, and that was kind of a prelude into my third point, is the sacrifice. So first point was the situation. Second point was the solution. And the third point is the sacrifice. The sacrifice. So in the face of this dire situation that these two mothers were faced with, one said, this is my child, and the other said, this is my child. And now the judge, Solomon, if you will, he didn't have DNA testing. He didn't have all of these other resources that we have today, where you can distinguish who the biological mother or father is. So he just had to rely on God. He had to just trust God. And when he made the choice before these two women to cut this child in half, then the real mother stood up. The real mother. I'm talking about a real mother. What a real mother would do. What a real mother will do for her children. No sacrifice too great. No problem too difficult. No prayer time too precious that they won't prevail, hallelujah, for their child. So this woman, she chose, because in essence, her child had been stolen. She had gone from the emotion of waking up one morning, thinking that her child was dead, thinking that she had killed her child, to the next emotion of realizing that her child is alive, but it's been stolen. It's been stolen. And now she's in the court. Now she's before the judge, and the judge has made this decision to execute the baby. So the real mother says, I don't want this child to die. I would rather my child live, even if I don't raise this child. I would rather my child live and live with somebody else, but yet my child will be alive. But King Solomon, in all of his wisdom, he realized, he perceived this thing. He saw the callousness of the mother that was perpetrating the fraud. He saw her really non-empathy, no empathy towards this child being cut in half. And he knew that a real mother would not want her child to be sacrificed. So he knew that this one particular woman that wanted to give life to the child was the real mother. So as we look at this story, and I know we probably wonder sometimes when we read through the Bible, but I tell you, the Bible reveals real life to us. It shows us real life situations, real life circumstances. And why in the middle of Kings with this story about two harlots being embedded here? As you would wonder sometimes about why the harlot Rahab was in the Bible. Why was her story so significant? And why was her story so significant after she had hidden the spies? When the spies came to spy out the land, and she hid those spies, and the spies made a promise to her that when we come back to take this city, because of what you did for us, how you helped us to live and not die, then your family is going to live. And she trusted them. And they came back, and when they took the city, her life was spared. But it's the faith that she had in them. She was a harlot. But if you go to Hebrews chapter 11, if you go to that faith Hall of Fame chapter, there you'll read Rahab, the harlot, is there. God is not a respecter of persons. Whatever your past may have been, whatever you're into right now, God can still use you. God is a God that can use anybody from any walk of life, no matter where you were, where you are. God used Hosea to marry Gomer. I tell you, God is a God that does some things that baffles our mind. He baffles our mind. You know, things that we would not consider, things that we would not do ourselves, but God does it. So, whether harlots, whether they were prostitutes or whether they were pure ladies of the day, the contrast between these two women is clear. You know, and I tell you, sometimes, you know, we think that because people are in church, we think because people say that they love God, that they're going to do the right thing and they're going to say the right thing, but that's not always the case. You know, you would hope it would be the case. You would hope that being in church that things would be different amongst church people, but it's not always the case. So he uses this example to show that even people that are outside of the will of God, people that are outside of the recommended and really highly heralded positions in the world professions, you still can have people that are right, people that make right choices, right decisions. And this mother, she exhibited her love today, just like many of you mothers out there are exhibiting your love for your children, that you're willing to sacrifice. Yes, you've gone through some situations and you've had some things that you had to face to get to a solution that was really commendable to what you were trying to achieve. But also, all of you mothers have made sacrifices. Sacrifices. I saw the sacrifices of my mother. I saw the sacrifices that she made, raising 14 children. I saw the sacrifice. I saw her sleepless nights. I saw the sacrifice, her up with those children sick all night long, praying all night long for sick babies. I tell you, there's a sacrifice that's made. I've seen the sacrifice of my own spouse. I've seen the sacrifices that she's made. Me being in the military all those years, traveling away from home, and she had to hold down the fort. She had to do the roles of a mother and a father. And I tell you, I appreciate you mothers on today. I applaud you on today. I applaud you on today for the sacrifices that you have made. If it had not been for you mothers, if it had not been for you all, we would not be where we are today. We would not be in the positions that we are today. I'm sure that every man that's humble enough to say it will say that my mother gave me the instruction. My mother gave me the courage. My mother gave me the wisdom. My mother gave me the push that I needed to go to the next level, to do what I'm called to do. I'll tell you, it's something about a mother, something about a mother. So I'm so thankful of all of you mothers on today. As I prepare to close on this morning, I would again like to compel any young woman. I would want to compel any young woman to not enter into motherhood casually. Don't enter into motherhood casually. This is not a game. This is not something that you do just for tax purposes. It's not something that you do, just out of ulterior motives. Being a mother is a calling. It's a calling. And it's a responsibility to raise your child in the fear and the admonition of the Lord. As a messenger of the cross, as a man of God, I will insist that Christ transforms the heart of all who come to him, and that transform young women to say nothing, hallelujah, of the young men will seek to honor him through finding his will for their lives. God has a will. God has a purpose for your life. And I want you to know today. So I'm going to pray. I'm going to pray for mothers. Pray for everyone, but I want to pray a special prayer for mothers on today. I want to pray as we go into prayer this morning. Come on, let's just close our eyes. Let's just concentrate on the Lord. Let's draw our minds in on today. Thank you, Lord. We just laid to rest on this Wednesday. One of our dear members, missionary, Virginia Palms. And my heart goes out to her son and those grandchildren that were there at the funeral. Going into this Mother's Day without having that mother and having that grandmother there, I know it's a hurtful thing. Father, I want to pray for Brother Adonis on this morning. I want to pray for strength for him, strength for his wife, strength for those grandchildren of Sister Vicki Holmes. I pray, God, that you would strengthen that family, strengthen the relatives, God, near and far, strengthen them, bind them together in love. Help them, God, to walk out the legacy that she left behind. I pray for all of those in range of my hearing on today. Those like myself that have lost their mother. Mother's no longer here on this side, but it's gone on to glory. I pray for those that are heavy at heart, missing that mother on today. God, you're able to mend the broken heart. You're able to lift up hung down heads. You're able to give encouragement on today. I thank you today, God, for what you have done. I thank you for how you have worked in our life. I thank you. And I pray, God, for every mother that's still in the land of the living. God, I pray your blessings upon them today. I pray your anointing upon them today. I pray that you would anoint them, God. Anoint them. Anoint them afresh. Anoint them for your service. Anoint them, God, to lead their young children, young boys and young girls into the ways of God. Train them up in the ways that they should go. And when they're old, they want to depart from it. I thank you today. I pray for every mother that has a problem child. Child is incarcerated. Child that's on the street corners selling their mind. I pray, God, for those parents that are going through today. God, you are the lifter up of their heads as well. You're able to turn it around. You're able to shorten sentences. You're able, God, to draw those off of the street and bring them into the household of faith. We thank you today, God. I believe that for the fervent, effectual prayers of the righteous availeth much. And God, we're praying today. We're praying as mothers and as fathers and as church members. We're praying that you bring those children into the fold, that you bring them, God, into the household of faith. We thank you and we praise you. Pray your blessings now upon the churches worldwide. I pray that you would strengthen the body of Christ. We need your strength. We need your strength. In times like these, we need a Savior. God, we have no other help. No other help but you. Nobody else can do it like you. We thank you and we praise you and we glorify you. We magnify you. You are a way maker. You are a problem solver. You are a heart fixer. We thank you today. Bless mothers worldwide. Strengthen mothers worldwide. Encourage mothers worldwide. And God will give you the glory, will give you the praise, will give you the honor. All these things we ask in Jesus' name. We're so thankful for our mother's love today. A mother's love, a mother that loved us while we were in our sin. A mother that loved us while we were out doing the wrong thing. A mother that prayed for us day and night. Glory to God. Until we came and gave our life to you, God. We thank you for those mothers. Strengthen mothers today. We'll give you all the glory and praise in Jesus' name. Thank God. Amen. Amen. Thank God for the word on today. Thank God for each of you. Pray your blessings.